Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports and for yet another analysis of a team. Today we are going to be talking about Royal Challengers Bangalore. They've been a franchise over the years. We've got the most number of loyal fans, one can say so. It's been 15 long years without an IPL trophy, but the fans still believe that they can cross over the line every time they turn out. Now, for this time, they will be back at the Chinnaswamy Stadium after 3 long years. Now, the whole fans, everyone will be behind their back. You've seen the support of RCB wherever they have played, the fans get behind them. Though they did not have a great time in the Women's Premier League, it'll be hoping to turn around in the Men's League at least for this RCB franchise. Now, what's it about RCB? What did they do right in the last few seasons and what did they do wrong? Now, if you look since 2020, they've qualified for playoffs in every season. 2020, they made it to top four. 2021, they made it to top four. 2022, they finished number three after being ending up on qualifier number two as well. Now, despite of all this, why haven't they gotten their hands to that beautiful trophy of IPL? Now, that's the biggest question every RCB fan or every Indian cricket fan wants to ask RCB, the franchise. Over the years, they've had some stalwarts playing for the team, likes of AB de Villiers, Chris Gale, likes of Anil Kumble, Rahul Dravid, Ross Taylor, Kevin Peterson. The list goes on. Maybe add Dale Steyn also to that list. Now you have players like Virat Kohli now. You have players like Faf du Plessis now. You have players like Wanindu Hasranga, Glenn Maxwell. What really stops this team from winning a trophy is the biggest question. They've got the names on the paper, but is it just the luck which is going against them, or is it their inability to transform the performance on the field? Let's look at the last season stats to understand how did they go about in the last season. The last season, if you look at the wins and losses ratio at this point of stage on the screen, you can see that they won close to 5 games batting first, and of course 4 games batting second as well. They won 9 games in totality, including the eliminator where they won against Lucknow Super Giants, and they went on to lose to Rajasthan Royals, who were the eventual finalists, of course, where Josh Butler came out scoring that brilliant 100 in that qualifier number two in Gujarat. Now, the biggest question is what really went wrong for them last season? Last season, they looked like a team which was well oiled, well captained by Faf du Plessis, a newly appointed captain. And what really went wrong for this team? Now, that is a question which every RCB fans also want to ask the RCB franchise at this point of stage. What one can say is they just had a momentum going not against them towards the latter end. A very typical RCB thing, isn't it? Towards the latter end, when the gas runs out, the momentum also runs out of favor for RCB. Something which you have heard of RCB over the years. In 2020, a season where they ended up losing four in a trot, qualified into the playoffs, and lost the fifth one in the playoffs as well. This has been an occurrence which has been happening for the longest period of time for RCB. Now, how can they improve this is the biggest question, and what can they do right? Now, of course, this auction they went in to pick up some of the players for replacements. They got the likes of some big players. Obviously, they bought Will Jacks, who eventually went on to be ruled out of the IPL. Now, they also got a replacement for the ruled out, that is Michael Bracewell from New Zealand, the all rounder who really came to India in the limited overs format and really did well as well. Now, talking about this season for RCB, there are some bad news for RCB way before the season has even begun. Now, Josh Hazelwood is still yet to recover from the injury. Wanindu Hasranga will be missing out 2 games initially for RCB as he's got international commitments. Now, the biggest of them all, last season's breakaway star in Rajat Patidar, might not be playing the first half of IPL or might be even ruled out for the entirety of the IPL because of a heel injury which he's still recovering from. There is no clear update on that, but RCB fans will be certainly hoping that Rajat Patidar is fit and fine to go when the IPL certainly starts. Let's look at last year's batting versus bowling stats to understand who were the how did RCB go about it? Because we looked at the win loss ratio, but it's important to understand how these players can have an impact. Now, when we look at the batting first stat, you need to understand last season was the worst season for some of the players like Virat Kohli did not really come into the party for majority of it. RCB were really struggling to find number three until the later half of the IPL. Batting first, they did score on most occasions 160, 170 odd runs, and obviously, if you look at the bowling second stat, they have the bowlers to pick up wickets for them consistently. They did restrict oppositions to 160 odd as well, trying to defend targets on a consistent basis. That was their biggest strength, one can say. So, batting first, trying to put up a score on the board, then hoping their bowlers really defended. They had players like Harshal Patel stepping up. There are players like Wanindu Hasranga who picked up most number of wickets for them. And obviously, Josh Hazelwood was a big factor over there as well. Now, when you look at bowling first stat, when you look at the batting second, it has not been this strong. Though they won 4 games batting second, it's not certainly been something which really suited RCB the last season, primarily because the chase master Virat Kohli did not really turn up to the IPL like the way he wanted to. He really had a big slump during the course of the IPL. He had majority of low scores and string of low scores, which really meant RCB's top order was collapsing more often than not. It was Dinesh Karthik, Shahbaz Ahmed, likes of these lower order batters who really pulled RCB out of the hole time and time again for them to really chase down certain totals as well. Bowling first, 1 second, their bowlers were their biggest strength of the last season, one can say so. Restricting oppositions to lower scores like 160, 170 odd runs on good surfaces and really hoping they chase it down. Now, that was RCB's season in totality. Some game they really outperformed the opposition. They really had a unit to go out there and win games. They really had momentum going in their favor, but certain players not being in form really let them down a big way towards the latter end of the season, at least, because when the latter end of the season came, they really wanted the big names to step up, and that did not happen. That meant they really crashed out in the qualify number 2 to a better team like Rajasthan Royals. Let's look at the batters, right? The best batters of the last season. It's so important to understand who are part of this team even now and what can they even do better. Now, who are the names? But they're all there. Glenn Maxwell obviously had a very decent. Though we say Virat Kohli did not have the most outstanding season, he still was the second leading run scorer for that team. Now that is Virat Kohli, and that's something which he carries over the years, isn't it? Virat Kohli's worst season is possibly one of the best players' best season. So now that's the standard at which he operates as well. Now, if you look at the strike rate of Virat Kohli, it was an awful season. He had a lot of uh, no, there were a lot of occasions where he got out on the first ball. There were occasions where he just couldn't get going. It just looked like Virat Kohli was out of place as well. Now, Glenn Maxwell had a very average season. He did contribute with the ball as well. So, as an all rounder, you can say a 300 odd season. You would really want him to have a 350, 370 odd run season and also performing with the ball. That could be a very good season for RCB, for Glenn Maxwell as well. You can say he had a very average season. Dinesh Karthik was a standard performer here, considering where he was batting. Now, if you look at that strike rate, that was one of the best of last season's IPL in totality. He had a strike rate of 183 throughout the course of the season, and he was finishing games consistently for RCB. Now, that's what you expect from a finish. If he can score 330 once as a batter who comes in number 7, number 6 for your team, and if it can really give you that flourish towards the latter end, that is something which you would really want from your batter. And this season as well, the responsibility is on Dinesh Karthik to give them the later flourish. A role which RCB could never find over the last 4 to 5 years has been a number 6 batter who would come and do a job towards latter end. They always had top heavy set. They always had an ABD Villiers. They always had an Aaron Finch, a Virat Kohli. But who would finish games for them towards the latter end? That's where Dinesh Karthik came to rescue for the last season for RCB, finishing games on a consistent basis for RCB. More often than not, he came out pretty well for RCB. Now, Rajat Patidar. Now that's a player which we already took his name. He is expected to miss out first half of the IPL. There is still a lot of uncertainty regarding his availability, but he certainly hoped to be that next number 3 replacement for RCB. When he came into the ranks, he scored that brilliant 50 odd against Gujarat Titans in that day game in the Brabant Stadium. That's where people really felt, okay, this guy can do a job even in the IPL. He always carried the reputation in the domestic circuit, even from Madhya Pradesh in the domestic circuit, to be a power packed player. He could score a lot of runs batting in number 3, number 4 for his domestic setup. That's something which he tried to convert for the RCB. His best innings definitely came in the eliminator against Lucknow Super Giants, where he scored that brilliant 100, and he also scored 50 in qualifying number 2. And he also had the reputation throughout the last season to be a player who performed in clutch situations. He scored 100 in the Ranji final. After he went on to score 100 later on as well. He got an India call up after that. Rajat Patil had a fantastic season until the start of 2023, where he had to undergo a heel injury. Now that's been the biggest question mark for his participation in this season's IPL as well. Faf du Plessis as well, after having a decent SA20, he'll be hoping that he continues that form into this year's IPL. If RCB can have Virat Kohli and Faf du Plessis performing for them this season on consistent basis, that's going to sort out a lot of problems for them. Now, that is one part of issues for RCB. Let's look at the bowling stats of the last season, because last season you saw Mohammad Siraj have a disastrous season. All of a sudden, fans felt, oh my God, are we seeing the Mohammad Siraj of 2019, 2018, where he used to be just thrown around for a lot of runs? Now, if you look at that stat, Mohammad Siraj's stat is just not a telling one. He considered close to 10 to 11 runs per over every game, which meant he was possibly the worst bowler. He was also replaced by Siddharth Kaul during the course of the season, where they had to look for a replacement for Mohammad Siraj because of the bad season he was having. Glenn Maxwell obviously stepped up with the ball. He was extremely economical, bowling in the power play, bowling in the tight situations this season as well. Though he's coming back after an injury, he's not played a lot of cricket since the last season. They will be hoping that he's fit and fine to go. His leg injury is completely healed, and they'll certainly be keeping Glenn Maxwell out of house parties for sure, because they wouldn't want another injury for Glenn Maxwell this season. Harshal Patel had a very average season, or a decent season for one's liking. He did come into the party more often than not, but after the last season, he's not been having great seasons. He had a very tough time with Team India. He did not get any opportunity in the World Cup as well. Now this is Harshal Patel's season to come back and tell everyone he's still there, he still can do a job. After that 32 wicket season in 2021, obviously the expectation was extremely high on Purple Patel, as they call him to be, but he did do a job for them. The best bowler was definitely Wanindu Hasranga, who came out there picking up wickets consistently for RCB in tough situations, giving them the wickets in the middle overs, and Josh Hazelwood to add to that as well. Bowling in the tough overs, bowling the death overs, bowling opening spells, bowling through the middle, Josh Hazelwood. But Josh Hazelwood's availability for this season as well is a big question mark for the RCB team. Now, what can they do better if Josh Hazelwood is not there? They have options in David Willey, they have options in Reece Topley, but can they do a job? Reece Topley was a breakout star for the English team the last season, where he picked up wickets consistently in the limited overs format, both in T20s and also in the one-day international for the English national team. They'll be hoping that Reece Topley comes in to be the replacement for Josh Hazelwood, at least in the initial bit, and hope that Josh Hazelwood is fit and fine to go. Though it's not going to be easy for any bowler to come straight into IPL and hope that he replicates a performance like what he did in the last season. That'll be a lot to ask out of Josh Hazelwood, but RCB will be really hoping whoever fills Josh Hazelwood's role will do a fine job. But this season is about impact substitutes, isn't it? Now, every team will have 12 players, and the best part is you can name your team after the toss. You can carry two team sheets. If you're batting first, you can name a particular playing 11, and if you're bowling first, you can name a particular playing 11. And depending on the conditions, you can bring a substitute as well whenever you want to be. You can bring one substitute. So, who will that player be for RCB? They've got various options there. They definitely have a Mahipal Lomner who might be part of the playing 11 to start off with. And then they have Luvneet Sisodia, who's another unknown commodity who can be used as an overseas pick. And maybe there can be occasions where RCB would want to go in with complete Indian bowling attack and hope that they use an overseas player as a tactical sub as well. It's quite possible, primarily because there is an option like Finn Allen who can be used as an opener for the RCB team, and then see Virat Kohli at number 3, then Glenn Maxwell, the Mahipal Lomra, Dinesh Karthik, and Shahbaz Ahmed. That could be possibly RCB's batting order to start off with, because there is an unavailability for Josh Hazelwood. So RCB will be really banking on the Indian bowling attack. Akashdeep Singh, who had a very decent domestic season with the Bengal team, leading them to the finals, had also a very good side Mustaq Ali Trophy there. There is Avinash Kumar as well, who is another unknown commodity, who is a very quick fast bowler who's told to be from Kashmir. Something very similar from Umran Malik mold there. Mohammad Siraj is having a fantastic season in the white ball format. He'll be hoping that he carries on that into the T20 as well, because he's now the world number one day bowler. That he'll be hoping that he converts that. He's been bowling exceptionally well for India in the death overs, giving them wickets consistently up top. So Mohammad Siraj will be hoping that he takes up the Josh Hazelwood role, and then they'll be hoping that an Indian bowler, an Indian third seamer, comes in and does the other job as well, which Mohammad Siraj did not. Mohammad Siraj had a disastrous season, but at least a half decent job to maybe pick up 6 to 7 wickets a season, or maybe even close to 10, and go under 8 runs per over. That's something which RCB will be hoping in the absence of the Josh Hazelwood and, of course, Harshal Patel to have another good season, because Harshal Patel has a lot of stake upon him at this point of stage as well. Let's look at the predicted playing 11, isn't it, to understand which is their strongest playing 11 on the paper and how far they can go. Now, when you look into the predicted playing 11, you can understand there's definitely Rajat Patidar, whose name is there. There's obviously Josh Hazelwood, whose name is there. But this is RCB's strongest playing 11. Now, what happens if these players are not there? Now, if you look at that top seven, you can understand the team's balance is built upon Rajat Patidar at number three, Virat Kohli opening the batting. Can they shift that around a little bit? Can they try out Anuj Rawat once again? Anuj Rawat, though RCB did try him out during the initial part of the last season, he was not a successful one can say so, because he did not really look like he belonged to that stage. He had a tough time opening the batting. He really got out to some of the cheap scores, and that's when they really felt they had to look beyond Anuj Rawat. Anuj Rawat can be again given that nod ahead for the initial games to see how he goes about, and Virat Kohli at number three, because Virat Kohli at number three over the last 6 months have been phenomenal. Who remembers his World Cup, the Asia Cup he had, and whatever games he played at number three for Team India, for number three for Team India in the T20 format, of course, and also in the white ball format in the 50 overs. So Virat Kohli is so used to playing a number three, he can fit anywhere in the top three, either as an opener or as a number three. That's where they'll be really hoping they get another opener. Could be either Finn Allen as the fourth overseas pick, or someone like an Anuj Rawat. RCB will be very tempted to go to a Finn Allen for this season to start off with, because RCB will be really knowing that they'd want to strengthen their batting, because there are going to be holes as long as there is no Rajat Patidar. I know a player who's just played 7 games for RCB. How can he be relied upon so much? But that's the whole balance upon which RCB has built this year's team with. Now, Glenn Maxwell, though he's coming back after an injury, but they'll be really hoping that he has that kind of a season. Now, Mahipal Lomrar slash Suyash Prabhudesai of Goa will be the two players who might take up that number 5 spot, depending on form, depending on tracks, because Mahipal Lomrar is a left-hand batter, Suyash Prabhudesai is a right-hand batter, and either of them can also be used as tactical substitutes as well. Now, that's going to be very interesting to see how RCB operates their tactical subs, because this season is about using them, and there can be occasions where RCB can play three players and hope the fourth player is an overseas player in Michael Bracewell, or someone like a Finn Allen for the initial bit at least. Or maybe even a David Willey on a good surface, which is moving around a little bit. They can try a David Willey to start off with as their fourth overseas pick. And David Willey has also got a reputation to bat decently. So that's going to be a lot of reprieve for RCB to have a long batting order. If you see that playing 11, in that playing 11, there's one factor which strikes you out. There are 9 players who can bat in that playing 11. You can say that's one of the most longest batting orders of this year's IPL, where 9 players can handle themselves with the bat, and they can have a long batting order. If you add David Willey to that list, that becomes 10 players who can bat. Maybe replace David Willey with Josh Hazelwood for the initial bit, then that makes 10 players who can bat in that playing 11 of RCB. That's a long batting order, and that will really prompt RCB to play some aggressive cricket up front, and that's going to really help their top order also, make them believe, okay, we've got enough batting to do, so we can go out there and play fearless brand of cricket. Because there is Dinesh Karthik, there's a Mahipal Lomra, there is a Shahbaz Ahmed, who all are reputed players who can bat for longer bit of time. And even if it is not Madindu Hatsaranga to start off the IPL, it is Michael Bracewell who might come into his position to start off with. He's also very good with the bat. He's been exemplary with the bat in the recent past. Who remembers that knock of 90 which he played in Hyderabad against India? He's a long hitter with the bat as well. So that is RCB's positive sign to start out with. Their weaknesses are obviously their balance. If their top order can perform well, how well can the Indian core come into play? Likes of Mahipal Lomra, Suyesh Prabhudesai, Rajat Patidar. Now, if that Indian players can come into the party, the unknown Indian players, maybe even Harshal Patel to come into the party, if they can come into the party alongside Shahbaz Ahmed, Harshal Patel, Rajat Patidar, Mahipal Lomra, if these four can come into the party, then RCB becomes all of a sudden a very strong contender for the title once again. As always, as one says, as RCB fans also says, they'll be hoping that Salah Cup Namde for them. Is it or not? Do let us know in the comments. That's all from us. Thank you for watching our video for RCB's analysis. We'll be coming back with more of these teams. And also, if you haven't checked out our previous teams analysis, do check that out. It's available on our YouTube channel. And if you like this video, do subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram, and also share this video with your family and friends so that we can keep bringing you more of this exciting content before IPL. And during the course of the IPL, we have some exciting content awaiting you as well. Take care, all of you, and stay safe.